everyone, and welcome back to Here Be Dragons. I am your host, Stephen Stark, as always. And back this week, John, regular co-host. Glad to have you.
Hey.
We're going to discuss the absence of Nessie off the very top. She was supposed to be here, but she's out of town this week. She's about to move across the country. They were out at their new property doing stuff. And so they're driving back. Didn't find out about it till today. She was going to try to make the stream, but it just didn't work out for her. So we love you, Nessie. We miss you. Come back as soon as you can.
Yeah, I have to say, I understand, but man, I'm so bummed.
Me too, because this was actually really great.
Yeah, it's just because we've kind of been building towards this. And so it just, yeah, we miss you, Nessie. Hopefully, we'll get to talk about it with you at some other point. Just, even if it's just like on one of our Zoom chats, I want to hear all your thoughts. But
yeah, me too.
But yeah, so just general impressions, Stephen.
Just two white dudes today. So you watched this when it first came out, right? Like a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
I just watched it. I binged the whole thing in 2 days. I think I started watching it Sunday night last week and then just crammed the rest of it in on Monday. Did not have time to go back and rewatch anything, but I have watched other people's thoughts and I've watched some videos about the conclusion, and I'll tell you this much. Just from a top-down view, it's definitely a season of the Clone Wars, but I think it's probably the best season of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, and I venture to say that, and this probably won't come as a surprise given how much I love the Clone Wars, but and I to be clear, I really do love the entire season, but the final arc, the final 4 episodes of the show, which really are a movie, they're split up, but it's a movie. It's probably my favorite piece of Star Wars media since The Empire Strikes Back. I'm just going to lay that out there. It's I remember watching it and I was like, man, I wish this was pieced together into a movie and released into the cinema, even though it would have to wait, because especially when they dropped, we were, that was the start of the pretty much the start of the pandemic. And so I was really happy to have this when we were all hunkered down and in quarantine.
Full disclosure, we will be touching on the Son of Dathomir comic as well, which is set between season 5 and season 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It basically takes Maul from where we last saw him to where he is in the Clone Wars. And it was good too.
Yeah, it's my one big regret about how things kind of unfolded is that we didn't get that in animation, because I think it's an incredible arc, but you know what, I hold out hope for one day.
So somebody there, you can go on YouTube and it's not really animated, but it is fully voice acted.
Yeah, I actually did see that. It's pretty damn good.
It is pretty good. The voice actors are not perfect, but they're good.
Yeah, and I'd say some are better than others. The one voice that I was they didn't really nail that was Obi-Wan, but he's a rather small part in that arc. I think that for Maul and Dooku and and certain other characters, I think they did a pretty damn good job.
I agree.
So if comics are not really your thing, or you want to get some sense of what a an actual like 4-part episode of the Clone Wars might have felt like for that arc, go search for that on YouTube, because I agree it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm actually going to look it up real quick and drop a link to the one I watched. I got to do it this way, don't I? Yep. Okay. All right. So posting the link now. That link will take you to the fully voice acted comic. It's about 40 minutes long, but it covers the whole thing, and it's quite good.
Yeah. What it did was it really brought it to life for me in a way that just reading the comic didn't. Because I'm not really, I'm becoming more of a, reader of comics now, but admittedly it's not something that I grew up doing. And I just find that reading comics, it goes by so quickly because your eyes are just darting from one panel to the next. And before you know it, you're through the whole thing. What the videos do is really sort of slow it down to, they're faster than episodes would have been because the comics are probably shorter than what the episodes would have been. But it gives you that kind of pacing and feeling of what the show might have been. But yeah, so I was really happy that you went ahead and read it, because there is a, like that's a pretty big, missing chunk to go from.
Yeah, it does provide some connective tissue.
Yeah. And
okay, but I want to make sure that we touch on all of it, on everything. And the whole last hour needs to be for the last 4 episodes, I think.
Okay.
So let's talk about literally any other part of it. About Son of Dathomir, I don't have much to say. It was interesting to watch, but it felt very much like because of the static nature of the images, it just doesn't carry the same weight for me.
Yeah, I and that's why I really do have sort of hopes to see it animated one day, because I think that there's so much value in it, because you really do deal with Maul building up, his power base and his interactions with the syndicate that he's built up and the different factions, and also of course all the
Mother Cows and stuff.
Yeah, I wonder how far we want to go into it for people who maybe haven't read it and don't know how that particular arc plays. But then we've got a fair number of people who haven't watched the Clone Wars at all. So,
yeah, that's true.
So it's not like we'll be avoiding spoilers on this stream. But yeah, it's the resolution of that story, and so I think it deserves to be done in full animation. I know Filoni right now is kind of the mind of pressing forward now that he's crafted an end to the Clone Wars, but who knows what the future might be.
It's not like it's going anywhere. And the thing is, the comic itself, the art is great.
Yeah.
The story is good. And as I say, if you watch the link in the video that I posted the link for, it's a great listen as well.
Yeah, but yeah, I just liked it because it's it definitely rounds out now that we have an ending. There's it just sort of fully fleshes out. And I remember when we're not going to touch on the finale yet. We'll save that for the last hour. But I was really happy that characters that had appeared in the comic were then carried over to the finale, because it gave added weight to the whole thing. So like this is part of the fabric of the show, even though it was a comic rather than part of the series. So yeah, it's
but the season itself is broken into 3 main parts. You've got your Bad Batch arc, you've got your Martez arc, and you've got your Final 4, which I don't even know what to call that arc, just the finale arc.
Yeah,
the Order 66 arc.
Yeah, it's pretty much been de facto known as the Siege of Mandalore, even though it doesn't, that's not what comprises it completely. But
right.
there had been such a long build up to, the Siege of Mandalore, and it's referenced in other Star Wars things. So building up to it, I think that's just what everybody called it, because I don't know that I necessarily expected how, God, here we're already like talking about, but how deep into Revenge of the Sith the finale would go. So, but we'll get to that.
Reeling you back in.
Reeling you back
in, and I'm gonna. So let's talk about the Bad Batch arc, because I actually loved it.
Yeah,
it is literally just a backdoor pilot for the Bad Batch TV show, which is fine.
But here's the thing: like, it's only like retroactively a backdoor pilot, because let me tell you, a lot of people saw this arc years ago, not completed, but it was a story reel, which basically was very low grade animation. Basically their animatic previs storyboards, and it was fully voiced and everything, and it was shown at one of the conventions, all 4 episodes, and they made some minor changes.
And they were like animatics.
Yeah, they were basically, what previs is, where it's basically, it is animated, but it's just but
it didn't have like all the
it doesn't have
textures and high polygon counts and all that stuff.
Yeah, it basically looks like the lowest quality video game you can imagine.
May I interrupt for a moment and just say, Wheezy, it is so good to see you. It has been far too long. I saw her post on Instagram, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in weeks. And turns out broken phone was the problem. But Wheezy, just so happy to have you back. Thank you. Love you. Been missing you. Yeah. Okay.
But so what I wanted to say was but they did make some very like minor changes to some of the dialogue, to just because it's been a number of years since that episode was originally written, so they wanted to basically adjust some stuff. But so it's interesting, because I remember watching this, and as much as I love this arc, but it was like, I remember the first 4 weeks, I was like, I can't wait to get to something
I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
And then ended up being the Martez arc, which to me is the low point of the season. But I'm going to stay on Bad Batch for now.
But I do want to say I do think it's a very important arc. But I can see that.
Well, you're holding copper up against silver and gold.
Okay. But it's so basically it was not designed as a backdoor pilot, because the Bad Batch were supposed to come back for future episodes of the Clone Wars, and so their story was going to continue that way, because originally the Clone Wars was seen to, I think they were going to have it run for about 8 seasons, 8 full seasons, that
right.
is. And so, but it's funny, because I remember thinking when they announced the return of Clone Wars, I was like, I wonder why they're like, Filoni must really love that Bad Batch arc, because I wonder why. So it's not fully animated, but we still have it. Why not give us another, arc?
Because by that point, they
were already designing stuff for, like, if you look at like concept art for like characters that, I almost gave away a spoiler, but characters that show up in the Bad Batch, they were being designed like before this season of Clone Wars was even dropped on Disney Plus.
Right.
So they had it in the workings. So it was actually brilliant to do it that way.
Well, and it works really well. And I kind of love the new characters, and I love that you can tell y'all are all clones, but you are all like they all have a different look to them, and the really like it's hard sometimes to tell one clone from another. Let's be honest, where they all kind of look similar and sound exactly the same. Even the Bad Batch sounds different. I know it's still all D. Bradley Baker doing the voices.
And what was amazing was back when the early versions of these episodes were released, remember, like, that previs animation, like, things move, but the faces are pretty static.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very reliant on D. Bradley Baker's vocal performance. And even from that, it was like, these guys are great. I love them. And to see them fully animated, which, by the way, we have to say, like, the animation is on a whole nother level for this season, given how...
Especially the last 4 episodes.
Yeah. Given how much time there was between when they last did Clone Wars and returning for season 7, they had just made such enormous strides. And I remember watching, especially the last 4 episodes, and I was like, they need to do more with animation now, because what they're able to do is just stunning. And then, of course, when I found out that they were doing the Bad Batch and it was going to be in the same style of animation, which, by the way, they pushed it even further. It's wild.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to the Bad Batch very soon.
And so it's just like, when I heard that, I was like, awesome, this is great. They're really going to take advantage of all the strides that they made, and it's just great. But anyway, back to the Bad Batch episodes. What I love about these guys is that they really are like a group of like 80s action heroes.
In a way, yes.
But
yeah.
Well, and we got Echo back.
Yes, and that's what Danny is talking about too. The mission to save Echo was very cool, and like, Domino Squad. We meet them all now. 2 of them die in that first arc. Well, 3, because Heavy, yeah,
2 die pretty quickly. This was, of course, before they had their origin story episode, which they might have been killed a bit more ceremoniously if that first episode had come later. But and then Heavy sacrifices himself to save everybody else. So but then throughout season 3, we followed both the Fives and Echo, and then in the Citadel arc, we lost Echo, or so we thought.
Yeah.
And then we followed Fives until his tragic end in last season. Which, again, there's stuff to talk about Fives when we get to the finale discussion. But as far as like Echo goes, it's just like, don't give up on Domino Squad. It was just really great to get him back,
because the way we lost Fives was so. I mean, it hurt to lose Fives that way. It's nice to get Echo back, and to see him go from being one of those clones that's just like basically all the others. I mean, Echo had his own peculiarities, but he was still he was very by the book.
Yeah.
In a way that some of the other clones are not, in a way that Rex isn't even. But to see him come back and be half cyborg and have sort of, in his own way, turned to the dark side a little bit, he reminds me of Darth Vader in some ways. But it's cool to get him back, to know who he is, and then for it to make complete sense for him, who is normally a very soldiery, by the book, battlefield type soldier, to go with the Bad Batch, who are a team of specialists.
Yeah, and it really warmed my heart, especially once the Bad Batch show was announced, and having watched that show, as much as I've really come to love all of the, you know, the Bad Batch characters who were introduced in these episodes, but also to know that Echo is part of that group, and that his story is being carried forward, and by extension the story of Domino Squad, it carries forward. It means a lot, and it's a testament to this show that, what it's built up for, our love of the clones, and and certain clones in particular. It's just,
and the rest of the season does nothing to tarnish that. I mean, we'll get to the end arc. I'll save my thoughts about it for then. But so for me, I really did sort of like, there's definitely a ranking of who I like better in Domino Squad.
In the Bad Batch, you mean?
I mean, yeah, in Bad Batch.
I want to know. I definitely want to know, because so I'm
going to leave Echo out of it, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm just going to go with the 4 new characters. Tech, number 1. Number 2 is Wrecker. 3 is Crosshair, and 4 is Hunter.
Okay.
Hunter's okay. He's cool, I guess, but I love Tech though. He's got that, because he's obviously the smartest and the most sort of capable with technology and stuff like that, except where direct interface, where Echo is obviously better. But he's snarky too, and I just loved it. I loved it. I loved the design of their armor, how you're like, that's clone armor, but it's all personalized to be more exactly what they need in the moment. It's cool. But yeah, Tech's my number 1.
Yeah, it's so tough to comment on these without because my head is filled with a season's worth of character development for all of these guys. So I have to hold back on that. But
I'm sure you can remember who was your favorite at this point.
Yeah, I'm trying to think exactly, because it's so hard to because the thing you have to remember is that I'd actually been sitting with these episodes for actually a number of years, because I had first seen them way back
in the old previs days.
Yeah. And I think I actually kind of responded, even though he's last on your list, but I had responded to Hunter because he was a very sort of, reminded me of he's like the most 80s action hero of the
he looks like Rambo.
Yeah, exactly.
With half a skull tattooed on his face. I'm like, it's a little extra, man. Tone it down.
But yeah, it's no. I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not going to be able to separate out my feelings for the characters.
Okay, well, we'll get. But in a year when we catch up to.
Well, no, let me just say. But having said that, I love Wrecker.
Wrecker's great.
He's so great
because there feels like there's more depth to him, and he's the smart guy, and I tend to like the smart guy, but Wrecker he's so much fun.
He really is. What? I get to blow it up.
Really?
This
he just wants. Look, he's easy to please. He knows what he wants. He wants to wreck things.
Here comes the wrecking ball. He is so much fun, and yeah, it's what's great is no spoilers, but you will get to see different sides to his character, and
I'm
stuff
sure
like that just makes him all the more endearing, honestly. And yeah, but I love these guys, and especially going back. Yeah, I think you'll get a lot of enjoyment.
I probably will.
But yeah, just especially now having seen all but the last episode of season 1 of The Bad Batch, going back to these episodes, I just had the biggest smile on my face because I really love these guys a whole lot now, and so to see them like getting off their ship with their theme in the background and and everything, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only connection I honestly have with them is from these, what, 5 episodes?
Yeah, 4 episodes, yeah.
Yeah, 4. Each arc was 4 episodes, yeah. So that's all I have to go off of. And obviously, they're also doing stuff with Rex and Cody and all of that, and obviously Echo. So they're sort of take center stage, but they're still sharing the stage with a lot of other clones. But as you said a moment ago, like, this show goes so far towards changing the way you think about the clones in general. Like, they just go from these guys that were slaughtered in mass in the prequel trilogy, to, like, there's a lot of clones that are individual, that are fully realized characters in their own right. Despite the fact that they all look the same and they all sound the same, they still come across as different characters. Fives is different from Echo, is different from Rex, is different. Rex and Cody are similar, I think, but Rex is a little bit more willing to bend the rules. And Cody, I think Cody's probably a better tactician. That's why he's commander first. But,
it just, my heart breaks thinking about Cody, even though, we don't get to see as much from his point of view, but just like knowing in Revenge of the Sith how just when that order kicks in, he just flips, and that really is. I think that's the real tragedy of this story is we see so much individuality from all these clones, and that's just wiped out in an instant, and they're used horribly.
I like this. Maul saying, "Die like warriors to his armies before banning them," is the equivalent of farting in an elevator before you get off. It kind of is quite funny.
Yeah. Oh my God, I can't wait to get to that. But yeah, it's as much as like these early episodes we get to see like the Bad Batch, and it is like their pilot episode essentially, but there's also the heart of those episodes really is Rex and rescuing Echo, and one of the scenes they actually added that wasn't in the arc originally, which I love, is that scene in the barracks with Rex and Cody in the beginning, where Rex is talking about so many of their brothers have been lost, and and so I think he gets just this notion in his head of the faintest glimmer of could Echo actually be alive, and I think it's very it's very tempting for him to imagine and want that, but I think he's so shocked when it actually ends up being the case. And yeah, it's just,
I mean, I was shocked when it ended up being the case, or at least when they suggested it, because I'm like, I remember Echo, but to be honest, I didn't remember how he died.
Well, it's been a while.
I have since refreshed my memory, but like, I do, I didn't remember. It had been a while, because that was season 3 or 4?
3, yeah. It was near the end of season 3, which, is completely fair, because I didn't really remember. I remember I told you on my first time through this show, I actually had some difficulty differentiating between certain clones and remembering who was who, because it's just a lot. It becomes immensely like that's why I think repeat viewings definitely reward you on this show, because I've really, like, going back, I've been able to pinpoint exactly who everybody is, and and it's just, I think we can be forgiven when it's a show about a bunch of guys who all look the same
and sound the same,
or close, voiced by the same actor. So
right. Like Rex is easy to identify because of his short, basically blonde hair. It makes him easy to identify. He's also given more screen time than any of the other clones, but sometimes it's like, if you can't see this side of Five's head, you might not know it's him.
Yeah.
Jesse's easy to identify, but that's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, and I really like the way that, like, I can't remember who was in the arc or originally, if it was in fact Jesse, but either way, it's really good that they, they have him in this early arc, so that he's sort of fresh in everybody's minds for the final episodes. But yeah, and there was a lot of great stuff in this first arc, even though it's very much the clone story, but Anakin gets stuff in this arc. I love when he's going to make his phone call to Padme.
Yeah. Tell me you said hi to her for me, at least.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, tells us that Obi-Wan has some idea of what's going on there. And he's just like low-key letting it happen.
Yeah, I think that he knows something is going on. I don't think he imagines a million years that they're married. I don't think he thinks that Anakin would actually take it that far. But he's fine with kind of letting something go on, especially given, he knows what it's like, because he had his feelings for Satine and
right. But that's just further evidence of the Jedi having fallen from where they were. Like, they're supposed to be peacekeepers, but they're generals. They're fighting in a war.
Yeah.
And that's just another example. We have this strict code. How strict? Like, how strict is it really? Like, Anakin's getting away with it, and Obi-Wan is letting him.
Yeah.
Which I think is another big, as much as we can admire Mace Windu and Plo Koon and Yoda and Obi-Wan and all of those characters, the Jedi Order is flawed. And this whole season, or not season, this whole show has been showing us the ways in which they're flawed. And this season is no different. We'll get to that when we get to especially to the Siege of Mandalore part. But it just goes to show that the Jedi are not living up to their own standard. And this is just another symptom of that. Although I will say, this arc also had one of the most satisfying moments for me personally, when Anakin stabbed that giant freaking spider right through the chest. And I'm like, thank God, Admiral Luke is gone. I
will say though, and I don't think I'm going to get much help from you on this one because of your, because I know that had to be satisfying for you, but also there's something about the way he does that, even though, like, it's completely deserved because, Admiral Trench, like, electrocutes him and does all that. It is technically a sort of self-defense move, but it's not so much that he kills him, but right after he does, he just, like, calmly walks to the side, and there's just something very sinister, unsettling about the way that he acts after he does that. That's like he does not feel remorse for that kill. Yeah, and I think that's a very key moment to let you know where sort of Anakin is, at this point in the story. And so, as much as, like, I knew you would be delighted that that the giant spider finally bit
They
it.
kept bringing him back, and I'm like, come on, guys, what is this?
Well, it's especially because they don't ever explain like how he survived getting out of an exploding ship back in season 2.
Miss Man Jones gets it. Miss Man Jones gets it.
He just seemed like the guy who just, you couldn't kill him. He just kept popping back up.
Hold on a second, John. Potter is here. Everyone stop and pay attention. Potter, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I was really worried, but thank God you finally made it.
I do want to say, like, I just wanted to get before, because we actually still have a lot to cover, and we're already like almost 40 minutes in. But I do want to say that I want to give like the Bad Batch their due a bit more.
Talk about it.
I talked about how much I love Wrecker. You talked about your love for Tech. Crosshair. I like, I can't say too much, but like as far as this arc goes, I really do like him, because when I was talking about the Bad Batch with Brian Christina, Brian said he's basically like the Raphael of the group, kind of the the sort of slide, the guy with an attitude, and
they actually mapped pretty well onto the Ninja Turtles, I think.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of the Donatello.
Yeah, and I just love it when he and Wrecker are basically competing in the last episode, and and then Crosshair makes that amazing shot and just takes out all
with all those
droids.
Little mirrors. Yeah,
I
mean, I saw it coming, but I'm like, it's gonna be badass.
It's like, don't worry, Wrecker, you'll top him next time. No, he won't. I just love that. And so I can see what you mean about Hunter, because he actually, as the sort of leader, he's the most sort of straight and narrow of
I did put him as Donatello,
the Bad Batch, and so wait, you mean Leonardo? Hunter is
yes, I'm sorry,
Leonardo,
you're right.
yeah.
I said Donatello, but yes, he's the leader, he's the Leonardo. Wrecker is definitely Michelangelo. You're right, it fits pretty well.
Yeah, so I think he probably gets like he gets to have the least sort of fun of the of the Bad Batch, but by the nature of who he is, he gets a lot more character development later on, and you're able to get a firm handle on who he is. But
it's not like I didn't like him. He just he just said the least development, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, I love these guys. They were a lot of fun, and I will say I didn't anticipate, like, even though I enjoyed them in these episodes, I didn't anticipate and watching the Bad Batch how much affection I would really gain for them. So let me see, Wrecker.
Yeah, throwing everyone up to the ceiling, and then Anakin's like, "I got this."
And then, of course, when Anakin pulls him up his slide, whoa, I don't like this. Oh my God, Wrecker is just so much fun.
And then the way he is carrying the big hunk of metal to use as cover for everyone else, and it's great, man. I really did enjoy this arc. I'm looking forward to getting to the Bad Batch animated series. Unfortunately, I've got 5 seasons of Rebels? 4 seasons of Rebels to watch before I do that.
It's not too bad. And
I think, unfortunately, it's Star Wars animated content, which the early seasons of Clone Wars I didn't love. You can go back and watch our old reviews, and I'll be like, it was okay. I found stuff to like, but by the time we got here, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I am in love. I'm going to push forward. Let's talk about the Martez arc.
Yeah, which
and Trace and Rafa Martez.
And this is really about, I think this arc actually has to pull a lot of weight. I know it was kind of people's
it's doing double duty.
Least favorite. Yeah. I mean, you have to tell Ahsoka's story after she's left the count, not the council, but the Jedi Order.
Right.
And you also have to set up what's coming. And it was not originally going to be that way, at least not to this degree, because this would have been an episode that would have been probably in season 6, a full season 6 of Clone Wars, and then Siege of Mandalore would have been a ways off. So, but I really like it because it kind of, I feel like it's picking up thematically where her last arc left off, where she's in the under levels of Coruscant, and and she's sort of and just if you remember that arc of the explosion in the Jedi Temple, it really dealt with how people are seeing the Jedi, and
that's why I think it pulled in double duty, because we get to spend some time with Trace and Rafa, and come to understand why they personally, and by extension, other people, might strongly dislike the Jedi and be so willing to turn on them when the Emperor comes to power.
Yeah, and
so it's doing that while also moving Ahsoka on the chessboard to where she needs to be.
Yeah, and of course, I love that. Of course, Zero got a mention in this arc when they're telling the story about their parents' death, which is very sad. But I'm like, oh, Zero, he made it to the final season, if only in mention. But it's interesting because we remember that incident where Zero's prison break, and it's such a Zero was such a ludicrous character, but to put this real tragic spin on that, and to have Trace and Rafa's parents having been killed, and then the way that we're told a female Jedi, we're not told exactly which one it was, comes to them and sort of says, you have a choice to make, but don't worry, the Force will be with you. It's such that's it's like
it's very pretty, we know that much.
Yeah, it's such a Jedi thing to say to
somebody. It's an empty platitude at that point.
It is. Yeah, it's like,
thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers, yeah, exactly. And it's coming from good intentions, but that doesn't do them any good. They're still on their own.
They're still living in the high castle. Meanwhile, they're leaving 2 orphans on the street.
Yeah. So yeah, it's it's just, especially on this viewing, it hit me hard, kind of how cold that was, and
it's a very good point that Miss Man Jones makes. When the Jedi judge people for their actions, they need to keep in mind that people can only do what's right when their basic needs are met. That's why the Empire gained the people's loyalty. Yeah, bread and circuses, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I mean, Palpatine engineered a set of circumstances where the Galactic Republic could not meet its citizens' demands anymore, with the trade embargoes, and it's all about the finances behind the war. Really, was Palpatine's plan, but that created scarcities, and the Jedi continue to have their excesses. The Jedi Order had all the money they needed. They could go anywhere, do anything. They always had ships. None of them skipped a meal, and the people, I could imagine, would get very upset about that set of circumstances, because that's a let them eat cake type thing. Oh, they don't have any bread. Well, let them eat cake. Okay, what makes you think they have cake? Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you, John. I just wanted to. I thought Miss Man made a really great observation there.
Yeah. And at the same time, like, while we're examining, you know, that it's also like setting up, you know, the next phase of the story, and we get to go to Obadiah, where you know, we're dealing with what's the faction of
The
Pikes, and who we just recently saw
in Son of Dathomir.
There, and then also in the last season of Clone Wars,
Right.
because that's where Anakin and Obi-Wan went in search of information. But yeah, and we did a lot of great Easter eggs there too. When, you know, when Marg Krim is talking to Maul, you know, Maul says, "I'm, you know, sure, you know, Crimson Dawn would love to take, you know, over, you know, your operation," and so we get the seeds of, you know, Solo's or, you know, from Solo, Maul's empire, as it will be, involving why can't I remember anybody's name?
Kira worked for him. Paul Bettany's character, whose name I can't think of, worked for him. Worked for Maul, part of Crimson Dawn.
Yeah. I can remember his name at every other time. It's just when the pressure's on, I can't remember.
Yeah, it's super important that you remember his name right now.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is.
Or we move on to something else.
Dryden Boss.
Yeah. Okay, but the I'm sorry, totally lost my train of thought. I was thinking about Ahsoka in this set of circumstances, because she is. Trace and Rafa are there to serve as windows into the general mindset, especially for people of the lower levels of Coruscant. They're from 1313, which is a nod to a canceled video game, by the way. 1313 was supposed to be a bounty hunter video game. Fun fact, I know somebody who was working on the music for that video game but it got canned when Disney bought Star Wars, and they lost out.
Oh, by the way, like, while we're talking about references, I just want to jump back to the first episode of the season, because it's when they're the Bad Batch and Rex are infiltrating the security center, and one of the battle droids, it goes, "Do you know what all this is about?" I don't know, maybe it's another drill. It's taken straight from the original Star Wars.
Like direct dialogue. I mean, not the sound, but the same script lifted straight from episode 4.
I got a chuckle out of that. But yeah, anyway, jumping back. No, this is like,
I did not really care for the Martez sisters. I gotta be honest. Like, I found Trace to be kind of annoying. Could have been a lot worse, and she had her redeeming qualities for sure. I was a bigger fan of Rafa, just because at least she was like, Rafa is a rogue, and a charisma-based rogue, which is one of my favorite classes to play in Dungeons and Dragons. So, like, Rafa is a character I would play in D&D.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're not alone. There were people who weren't fans of the arc and fans of those characters. I like them, and
they're fine.
Yeah, but they are serving a purpose in that they're a conduit for the people and how they've suffered. And one thing I do like is, I think in the original version of these episodes, which did not get made into like full story reels, but I think they released like an early version of a scene from this arc a couple of years ago, where originally Ahsoka was interacting with, instead of two young women, it was a young guy, and there was like a flirtation and a romantic story
without that.
Yeah, it is. And so that's kind of what I like about this arc, is just, it's much better from that perspective, and the fact that it's three women who are, and fighting all these odds, and so it's so I like that, and also just the way it carries her story forward, and she has some lessons to learn before she returns to the fold, and like her understanding of what the galaxy actually needs from the Jedi, what they should be getting, and I think it gears her character up for what she confronts in the final episodes. But yeah, and then like I remember, even though I knew she was going to be involved in the final episodes, I still got really excited when Bo-Katan pops up. Just like they're running through Obadiah, and all of a sudden you see them bump into someone, and it turns around and it's a Mandalorian. I'm like, I know who that is.
Well, her helmet is actually pretty distinctive.
Yeah.
I will say too, like, I was very critical of Ahsoka's first outfit, like her original character design. I was a little bit, I was a little bit critical of that. Her sort of second outfit that she gets, which is season 5, maybe season 4. I was like, I like this much better. Then they put her in these blue coveralls, and I'm like, you know what? I dig it. I do. I love the blue coveralls on Ahsoka. It's the most modest that she is in the entire series. Although I will say her finale arc costume is also great. But I just kind of love her in the blue coveralls, looking like she works at a dock or something.
Yeah, and we also get the impression that like it's been a little while. She's been on her own. It's not like this arc is picking up, directly from when she leaves the temple. She's obviously been, spending some time on her own, by the time this happens. And actually they pull a little trick with us narratively or chronologically with these episodes, because, true to form, where everything's a little out of order. This arc actually chronologically happens before the Bad Batch arc, because Anakin is still on Coruscant during this arc, because we have that moment when they're leaving the planet, and it calls back to Return of the Jedi when Darth Vader can sense Luke, and in the scene Anakin senses Ahsoka, so it gives us that nice bit of connection. And so of course then the Bad Batch, we know the Bad Batch arc happens after that, because Anakin is already in the Outer Rim sieges at that point, and he won't be back until Revenge of the Sith happens. So, but
we call it around here we call it ROTS, but
of course you do.
Throwback joke. Sorry, y'all. Throwback joke. John got it though.
It's interesting. I wanted to pop this up because, of course, we don't get Ventress in these episodes, but that as I've said before, there's a book out there, Dark Disciple. Read that for the rest of for Ventress's story. It's stuff that we just didn't unfortunately get to see on screen, but the story has been told. So. If you want some closure on Ventress, it's out there.
It's a fun question, but like my answer is Asajj never had a friend ever. I'm not about to start now. That's my pick, or the way I see it.
I just like, as far as like her and Harley, I just think that like Ventress would absolutely hate Harley.
I think so too.
I think Harley would be trying to be her friend,
I think Harley might. Here's the thing. I think Ahsoka would try to tone Harley down, and Harley would get annoyed with her. It would be. But lock those 3 women in the room. Only one of them is walking out alive. That's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think so. But now I want to see that. I really do.
Right. I mean, it would be fun. This is funny. I guess it's based on fan art.
Okay.
Yeah, but still, like, it would. They're all great characters. I mean, like, I did not expect to like Asajj Ventress as much as I did throughout, and I'm a little sad we didn't get any of her in this season. It is what it is. They kept the storytelling tight. They told the story they needed to tell. They got to where they wanted to go.
Yeah, and that's actually before we, I just want to mention this quickly, just before we do the mid-roll, and then we go on to Siege of Mandalore. Like, I really do like that the final season was squarely focused on Ahsoka and Rex.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this season was their story.
It really
was.
was.
They've got varying degrees of like screen time over the course of the seasons, but these final episodes really drove home that these are the central points of this show, and yeah, I loved it for that. And
yeah, because really you got a lot of Rex in the Bad Batch arc, and you got a lot of Ahsoka in the Martez arc.
Yeah, and then
both of them in the finale arc.
Yeah,
in the Siege of Mandalore. Listen to me talking like a real fan.
I love it because I remember like how you were when we covered the first season. You were being nice about it, but I know you were not like.
I wasn't.
It was a nice diversion for you, but you weren't really into it. So
I was not really into it. I was really into it by season 7.
Yeah,
and like. I was ready, but I was also ready for the story to be done. I was ready to get to the end. I like my stories to have a place where they know they're going to stop, and to tell the story to get to that point. Don't try to drag it out. Don't cut it off too soon either. Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's. And I am really glad that we did it this way, because I think that being able to actually get to the end of this story is a better place to be when moving into Rebels versus how, a great many of us had to go into Rebels, which was bitterness over, Clone Wars not being finished and not having that resolution. And so the entire thing, especially throughout, the first season of Rebels, which is very much focused on those characters, and, they sort of expanded out to the larger Star Wars galaxy in subsequent seasons. But especially that first season, we were like, this is nice, but what about Clone Wars?
Right.
And whereas if you have that resolution and that satisfaction from the end of Clone Wars, you're like, okay, I'm ready for a new story.
Which I think is the benefit of me having watched it later and watched all of this, and now about to go back and start Rebels. But it's nice for me to have the closure on this story, which most people did not.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad for that. And then, so anything else to say about the Martez arc? It was okay. Again, to me, it was okay. It was, which is why I say it's a season of the Clone Wars. It wasn't a droid episode, God forbid, or a Jar Jar episode by any means. Like, it was interesting and compelling and fun. It just, when it's sandwiched between the Bad Batch and the Siege of Mandalore, like, it felt like it didn't quite reach the same height for me.
And also, like, I think
that's cool. Wheezy, when it happens, you need to let us know. I'll look for her.
Holy shit.
That's cool.
That is cool.
I can't wait. I'll be like, I'm 2 degrees of Kevin Bacon right there.
But no, I just want to say, like, especially like I get it, and especially because even for me, when I remember when the season was airing, it was constantly like, it was always in my mind, like, the myth of the Siege of Mandalore had been built up for so long. It was like, I really want to get to that. Can we get to that? And so, and so there was always that hanging over the whole season. But having to go back, I think that each of these stories in the season played a very important role in building up. But I don't know. I think I've I think we pretty much said what needs to be said about that arc. I'm trying to think, like, what I do want to
running spice. It was neat to see Kessel. It was, it was almost a nod to Han Solo when they dumped the spice, and he's like, even I get bored at sometimes. So, like, I feel like they're doing just enough of that reaching back and clicking things in your mind.
Well, and we actually do get to see when they land in Kessel and the in the not so great part of Kessel, like we see that in Solo as well, and so it's it's referencing that as well, and I enjoyed getting to see the the alien race that Ben Quadraneros hails from the pod racer.
Yeah, the guy with the big head and 4 arms. There were a bunch of them on that landing platform. And I guess it was a Rhodian in charge. And that was it was a fun, actiony sort of bit of stuff.
Well, and especially
binary load lifters got a name drop too.
Yeah, and once they take off, there was a great like drop of like music, John Williams music from when Ahsoka starts firing and stuff. So there was some really. That's another thing, like. At that point, and also in the Siege of Mandalore, there's some really great, like, just like giving the score over to John Williams moments that I think the show didn't do as much in the earlier seasons. But it's so earned, here at the end, and I thought it was beautiful. Okay, there is more stuff I could talk about, but let's do the mid-roll so we can talk about Siege of Mandalore, because we got to
make sure we get time for that in.
Yeah.
At the very end, if we have time, we'll circle back to some whatever. Okay. But yeah, mid-roll. Hi, this is the middle part. You know what we do in this part? We talk about remembering to like and subscribe, because I never remember to do that otherwise. So yeah, hit the like button, if you will. That's the one that's shaped like this. Hit the red subscribe button. Turn on your notifications so you'll get you'll get alerts when I put up videos and stuff, when I drop live stream stuff. You are correct, Kate. It is the middle clump of the stream. What else am I doing? Oh, yeah. Got to make sure to shout out our patrons. Our Patreon High Council consists of our alpha patron, Ridiculous Ed Tollett, Lord John Bronsteen, the Wise, Sixto Sounds, a.k.a. JP the Axe Grinder, and Lady Leaf Underhill. And they are intended by the lords and ladies of the realm, Ryan Stavka, the Russian Quartermaster, and Reflective Rambling. Thank you, patrons. We love you. If you are enjoying this conversation now and would like to continue the conversation, you can always join our Slack group. It is a multi-channel social media platform, not too dissimilar from Discord. We have 70-odd members in there, although I would say less than half of them are active, but there's still 30 of us that use Slack regularly. And if you would like to join, just send me an email at we3dragons@gmail.com. I will send you an invite, and you can continue the conversation all week long. What else? John, you have something coming up next weekend, next Saturday.
I do. Next Saturday at 7 p.m., I will be joined by the wonderful Hannah from the Game of Owns podcast, and we'll be talking about the film La La Land. So be sure to stop by. Both of us love that movie, and we'll have a great time talking about it. Stephen, what is going on this channel next week? Because we haven't talked about it.
You're right. I'm calling an audible and just deciding that I'm going to do a movie review that is not nearly old enough to do a retro review on. That's right. I'm doing a modern-esque movie, one that came out not too long ago. There are no perfect films in this world, but very few come as close as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I love that movie with all of my heart. I think it is a brilliant masterpiece. And that's what I want to talk about next week.
This is coming out of the blue, Stephen. You could have dropped some hints about this in the past.
Yeah, right. I will be reaching out to a couple of people who I know love the film as much as I do. Hopefully I can get one or two of them to join us as guests. But, that's what I want to talk about. I've been wanting to talk about it. John, I was hoping you would do it on your channel eventually, and you might someday, but...
Yeah, admittedly, I've had to slow down a bit.
You had to slow down a bit, and yeah. Let's be honest, you're more into the high drama, the prestige, the period pieces, and I get it. That's your sort of niche. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a comic book action movie. That's really more what we do over here. So yeah, we're going to be talking about Into the Spider-Verse, which I'll save anything else I have to say about it till next week, but I'm looking forward to it. I have a second channel called Here Be Games where I live stream. Right now I'm only doing once a week. I might do it a little bit more often in the future. The problem is that I have really soaked up all of my off time by playing Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. But yeah, I would really love to play some more games. Miss Man Jones was just asking me about a Star Wars The Old Republic playthrough. I might do that. Currently, we're playing Cities Skylines. I'm considering starting a new city in Cities Skylines because we've grown quite large, and I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I've done some tutorial stuff. So I might start a new city this week. But that's Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. Yes. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern on another channel, a channel called Here Be Games. Link is down in the description for that channel. And that's so that we don't gunk up this channel with a bunch of me of just doing gameplay. Because this is for nerd conversations about nerd topics. What else do I need to make sure I cover, John?
No, I think that's it. Yeah. I don't think you're missing anything.
I can't think of anything either. Yeah, I can't think of anything. So yeah, come back next week. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. John, you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
You could talk about it.
Yeah.
For those in the chat who, if you have not seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you really should. It is, again, I consider it just to be one of the best films out there. 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. Where can we watch? I don't know that there's anywhere to watch it for free, but it's a $3 rental on Vudu, on Amazon Prime. They have it for rent on YouTube even. Hulu has it. It was part of their premium. Anyway, it's out there, and it's worth paying $3 to see it. I love that movie, and I can't wait to talk about it. Okay.
Yeah, it was probably my favorite Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2. So
I think it's my favorite Spider-Man movie, full stop. but it pays to have, if you've seen the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans, like it's a huge help to have seen those films.
Yeah,
it is coming off of that Spider-Man story to a degree.
Yeah, if you like anything Spider-Man, it really sort of pays homage to just, loving the character, and, in its many different iterations. But anyway, let's talk Siege of Mandalore.
Okay. Siege of Mandalore.
All right, Stephen, this arc starts off differently.
It does. And I got to tell you, I got goosebumps just when that first title card came up, and like you didn't get the fanfare, and it was like dark and foreboding sounding. I got goosebumps just from the title card, which
it's that really old school Lucasfilm Limited production, which just obviously, I had, like many people, I adore the original versions of the Star Wars trilogy, and so that's like right back from that age of Lucasfilm, and it was great. And then you get John Williams like original main title music to open up that first episode, and it's not the Clone Wars version of the theme, it's just the Star Wars theme, and so it sets it on a different level from the other episodes, and this is the thing, like what we've sort of been talking about, the other episodes, and even I would argue even the Bad Batch episodes, all entertaining this season, but this finale arc is just like playing on a whole nother level. It's just utterly amazing, and and it starts off like in such great classic Star Wars fashion with, it opens with this, the battle, the Outer Rim sieges are ramping up, and we get this great moment with Anakin coming onto the battlefield where Obi-Wan and Rex are pinned down, and
yeah, that was fun too. Like, like the way he's just standing there, blaster bolts whizzing past him, like he doesn't care. And look, I have been screaming about using cover since season 1. And like, I also love how, I think it's Rex says, get into cover. And the next thing you see is everybody like just running down the bridge, not using cover at all. They eventually do though, but the clones need to learn how to use cover in an offensive manner. But Anakin is just like, whatevs.
Yeah, it's great. I alluded to this back when you were complaining in earlier seasons about lack of cover, and I was like, Anakin does something in the finale, just driving up a wall, but he's a Jedi, so he can kind of control the space around him. So, but I loved it. There's so much like epicness in these episodes, like even the start when, like even before Anakin gets there, when Cody is like about to be hit, and it's the fire coming down on him, and then Obi-Wan just appears and slices with his lightsaber, and there's this really epic shot of him holding his lightsaber while the music is going, and everything about this just screams like we are giving you like the ultimate Star Wars experience. And it's just great. And what I was talking about earlier with like using a lot of John Williams music, as soon as, the trap is sprung and Anakin pulls in the tactical droid and Rex and the others come out, and you've got that John Williams, classic Star Wars music. And it's like, Yeah, that's why it just feels like this big, the whole thing feels like an event, like really like big epic Star Wars, which is why like I'd love to just see this edited together as a film. And
I would
just,
too. And the thing is, like, I mean, looking ahead a little bit, it is so much more cinematic and theatrical in its scope and presentation. Like, there are quiet, lingering shots the way you just never got in this show before.
Yeah. And yeah, sorry, I just lost my train of thought for a second.
It's all right. Like, we've got lots of trains running through here.
Yeah, no, I remember. Like, and it's funny because, the Clone Wars started off with a theatrical release.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so amazing when you look at the difference,
Oh, God, yes. Oh, God, yes.
It's like I'm quite light. I'm easy on the original Clone Wars film because I think it sets it sets up the story. There's some fun stuff in there, but obviously it's like from a technical perspective, from a storytelling perspective, it's like you can just see what all the experience of the years has brought to this, and how much more skilled everybody got, in all those years.
I mean, it doesn't hurt that they literally animated over motion capture of Ray Park for that fight between Ahsoka and Maul, which is just one of the most gorgeous things this show has ever done. Yes, I mean and you can.
Yeah,
God, it's brilliant.
A picture does not do it justice because just the motion and the fluidity and just the fact that you can tell that that's freaking Ray Park, fighting as Maul. Like, well, and by the way, I wanted to give like a big hats off to I don't have her name handy, but the woman who did Ahsoka's movements was absolutely brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see if I can.
Yeah, you can look into that if you want. But
because
you can tell the difference because, I mean, not that the animation from before was bad by any means, but the lightsaber fights were a lot of quick to slow, quick to slow, quick to slow. Like a strike would be very quick to go from its start to its finish, but then they would linger there to give that feel of like quick movement, but also a finality to each maneuver. Whereas this fight, one strike flows to the next, flows to the next. It's got a lot more realistic feel to the way it's animated. And then you have two top tier fight choreographers lending their talent, and then you're putting all the emotion behind it that we've been building up to. God, it was just, it took my breath away. The first time I watched it, I watched it, and then I rewound it and watched it again, and then I rewound it and watched it again, because I was just like, this is incredible. This is the most beautiful lightsaber fight that's not live action.
And I think it's honestly even wipes the floor with a lot of the live action lightsaber.
Yeah, it's better than a lot of the live action ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I just looked up her name. Her name is Lauren Mary Kim, who just hats off because it just she really captured Ahsoka's movements, but took it to a whole nother level. But yeah, that's. I remember just there's so much weight to when Darth Maul was coming down on her with the lightsaber and their movements back and forth. It's just
stunning.
You're just on the edge of your seat, holding your breath, and it's just it's fantastic. Yeah,
and that's even before she gets her moment where she's fighting. God, just that shot where she jumps off of the gunship, I think, or maybe it's a troop transport. Anyway, like she jumps and she lands and she slides with her lightsabers behind her, and the ship crashes behind her and explodes.
Which
she's got
by the way,
full-on like hero shot moment.
Yeah, and right before that, she says "race you to the surface," which
Yes.
I don't remember. I don't know if you remember, but that's a direct callback to the first Clone Wars movie, where she says to Rex, "Race you to the surface," and so then
no, she says to Anakin, "Race you to the top." Or Anakin says to her, "Race you to the top."
No.
And she says to Anakin, "I'll give you a head start."
I could have sworn it was Rex that she does that with, but maybe not. But anyway, the fact that he says, some things never change. It's just great. It's that feeling that, they've come full circle, and it's just beautiful. But yeah, that hero shot is great. Just with everything exploding behind her, and it's fantastic. But yeah, God, I don't know. Like we've already jumped to.
Oh man, I'm going to be all over the place.
So what do you want to talk? Where do you want to go next? Because there's just, God, there's so much. We could honestly go anywhere with this. How about the going back more towards the beginning, just talking about the reunion that Ahsoka has with, not just with Anakin, but with Rex and the clones, and the scene where she walks in and they've all painted their helmets.
That was a weird moment. I came to really embrace it and love it, but at first I was like, why? Like, you painted your helmet to look like my face. It feels almost weird to me, but like, I get it, and it does work. It works for what they're doing. It's showing their admiration for her. It's also making it so much more heartbreaking by the end.
Yeah.
And it also sets up a really beautiful sort of shot at the very last shot of the whole series. I guess it's burying the lead a little bit, but like the very last shot is a clone helmet with Ahsoka's face on it and Darth Vader reflected in the visor. So that's Rex, that's Ahsoka, and that's Anakin. The three main characters of the whole show are are in that final image, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a surprising reaction, because I was just instantly like, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, this shot right here, awesome.
I was just instantly touched that they'd done that to their helmets, because it was, showing that their loyalty and their, admiration. Yeah. So, but yeah, and then of course, after we get that touching moment, the alarms start going off, and we find out that Revenge of the Sith is already happening, and Palpatine has been kidnapped, and and they have to race off to do that. So Obi-Wan relents and decides to give promote Rex and allow Ahsoka to go along with them, send them to Mandalore, and he'll take the other half of the forces and go to Coruscant. So we've got this splitting of the narrative where, one side of it heads off into Revenge of the Sith and the other heads to Mandalore. And it's just great, because as the episodes progress, we get this uneasy feeling of a ticking clock, of like a bomb that's about to go off, and we're not quite sure when.
But like, how great was it? Because I knew going in, I'm like, Order 66 question mark? And I knew that was looming over everything up to that point. And I'm sitting here going, because I'm like, Rex got to overcome this somehow. How's Rex going to get through this? How are we going to get all these clones through this? Short answer is most of them were not. Yeah. Which is really, really sad, because they go to the point to make the change to their helmets to show their dedication, and we've just grown to love them so much. It broke my heart.
What was your reaction when, in the moment when Rex gets Order 66, shit hits the fan?
Are we going to jump that far ahead? I guess we can.
I mean, we might as well.
Like, I don't remember, but I don't remember what exactly my reaction was, but it was definitely something like, wide-eyed on the edge of my seat, and watching the animation of his trembling hand and letting his helmet fall. And then I thought maybe he was going to overcome it with the "no, I'll do it." But then find him, 5 5s, find 5s. And then he attacks her.
Yeah, it's the most he can do before he's overcome. And like, there's no time to like go into detail about what exactly he means. Like that he gets out what he can, and then he's overcome, and there's nothing more he can do. I remember just being so like emotionally overcome by his resistance in that moment, that he cares about her so much that it's allowing him the smallest bit of resistance. And also the fact that he knew about, like, he didn't know like completely,
because he knew what 5 said.
Yeah, and so his head was like already thinking about this stuff. So I think the combination of those things gave him enough to like resist.
Rex a goddamn hero, man. Throughout this whole, God, I love that character, and like I love that he's positioned, because he's always been Captain Rex, but here at the end, like, they literally split the 501st to make another division and put him, Commander Rex, in charge. Gets that promotion so he can lead the troops, and Ahsoka is going to act as his advisor. We saw how that worked in practice. She was in charge the whole time. But he got his due. He got the promotion. He got to be along for a lot of the ride on Mandalore itself, to fight like a demon, because he's always been great at that. I also love that Maul's plan was to get Skywalker, and it just backfired on him.
Yeah. God, man. Yeah, let's just talk about Maul, because Clone Wars has done such a great job of, building up this character into something far greater than he was originally. And like, everything about Maul and in these episodes was just like, I was like, holy shit. Yeah. The fact that, like, we think that, when Olmec says, Maul wanted you to bring the Jedi, but you brought the wrong one, we think he wanted Obi-Wan there for revenge. Nope. Nope. he wanted Skywalker there because he's figured out through a vision what the part that he plays in Sidious's plan, and so he wants to kill him to, as he says, rob Sidious of his prized pupil.
Right.
And it's just, and I just love everything with, God, his whole speech to Ahsoka, and he gets so many great lines. Just justice is really the construct of the current power base, the power base, which according to my calculations is about to change. And,
good lines. Good line.
And they talked about, too late for what? The Republic to fall? It already has. You just can't see it. And it's just like, and then, this is Maul's story. Like he tried, he wanted this with Savage, a pupil to, be master and apprentice. And now he's extending his hand to Ahsoka because, because he wants a pupil. He wants to be the Lord of the Sith. And he just he fumbles the ball, of course, because he's forever
one step behind every time. He says it himself. Like he knows that he cannot outsmart Sidious. He's just trying to be here when Sidious winds up here.
Yeah, he says I can thrive in the chaos.
Right.
And so you mentioned earlier when he's like, he's talking to the Mandalorians. He's like, your people were not made to crawl in the sewers, and if you die, it'll be on the field of battle, and I promise you, if you die, it will be as warriors. And they eat it up because that's
because they're
that's their way. Yeah. But then I love when, and he's, abandoning them and, and Saxon is like, Lord Maul, we need support. He says, die well, Mandalorian.
Right. No. That was so funny because, Maul really did sort of, even the nature of, how you see him changes drastically from his first appearance in episode 1, where he's dark, foreboding, but he is so physically impressive, imposing. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But as the story progresses, you see more and more his craftiness, his I guess craftiness is the best way I can put it, but he's so dangerous, not just from a physical standpoint.
Yeah.
Which is not something you get from the films.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Who was it? Miss Man, I think, said something about it was farting right before you get out of an elevator.
Oh my God. And then when, right after that, when they continue their, Ahsoka and Maul continue their fight up there. And I loved, oh my God, she gets the better of him without any lightsabers. Because she's just that great. And it's and let's take a moment to appreciate Ahsoka's journey over the course of this show. She,
I'm taking a moment.
She fights freaking Darth Maul at the end of this
series
and defeats him in combat. If not, he makes it out. He survives the end of the series, but she did defeat him, in the lightsaber battle, and it's just amazing the fact that she started off in the show. People were like, "Oh, who's this person?" She's
so. What the hell are you calling R2D2 R2E? How dare you? But here's the thing: they controlled why people didn't like Ahsoka early on. She was annoying, and she never got her comeuppance. But a few times along the way, she did get her comeuppance, and she did learn and grow from that, and she became less cocky, more thoughtful, and that's why you grow to love her throughout the seasons. If you write a character going, I'm going to make people not like this character, so that they can start from there, and then I control the reason they don't like them, so I can turn that reason around completely. And that's what they did. Yeah. She is easily she's one of my favorite characters in the whole dang Star Wars universe. Ranks above some original trilogy character. Nobody's going to touch Luke Skywalker. Let's not get crazy. But like, I need to see her meet Luke Skywalker. That would be awesome. But
yeah.
And we know they occupy the same sort of timeline from Mandalorian. We know they do, although they probably don't directly know each other.
Yeah, otherwise she might have just said, hey, I know this other Jedi named Luke. Just take it straight to him instead of the maneuvering that we saw at the end of Mandalorian season 2. But still, who knows? We might end up getting that.
I like this question from Miss May Jones. If you led the Mandalorians, what would your color scheme be? I can show you mine. You ready? It's the colors of my logo.
Oh,
dude, they're great colors.
I know, but that was cheat.
It's not cheating. Those are good colors. And I'll have nothing against it.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say that
the colors of your logo.
Yeah, that'll work. I can't come up with anything better.
Show me your logo. I want to know what Mandalorian John DeLorean armor looks like.
Hold on, I have to bring it up because I changed my because right now
these colors are great.
Okay.
Red and gold. That's the one we're talking about. Red and gold would be sharp. And a nice bright red too.
We'll go with that, which, by the way, I want to mention while we're talking about Mandalorians, man, I really love the Maul-inspired Mandalorian armor, just with the horns and stuff, which, by the way, this is why, now I can clue you into this theory. I think that there's a character from both the Sons of Dathomir comic and the finale named Rook Kast, who is the female Mandalorian who follows Maul. I think she is the armor from Mandalorian.
Okay. Is she the one who's Sabine's mother?
No.
Because Sabine's mother is in the show as well, I've heard.
Yeah. No. This is the one who fights for Maul.
Because she's got to be Death Watch.
Yeah,
because those Mandalorians are former Death Watch Mandalorians.
Yeah, and the fact that the armor's helmet has sort of horns that kind of look like they could be inspired from Maul. So that's my working theory at the moment. But anyway, let's get back into the episodes.
I mean, I like it.
Yeah, it would be a great way to tie stuff in. But yeah, no, I just and going back to Maul and Ahsoka's conversation when he tells her about his vision of Anakin and he says he's the key to everything. She says to bring balance to the Force, to destroy. He has long been groomed for his role, and she's like, "You lie. I know Anakin." And then she takes out her lightsabers. Your vision is flawed. It's like, oh, poor Ahsoka. She believes in Anakin so much, and unfortunately, she's wrong.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a heartbreaker.
Yeah, and another part I love is when she does, defeat Maul and captures him, and the clones tie him up, and just the moment where he's like, "Let me die," and it's like, "You don't know what you're doing. We're all going to die." And it's like when the evil villain is screaming and talking about how everybody's going to die. That's disconcerting.
Yeah, it is. I also love that they locked them in, like they have a Jedi-proof cell that they can lock Force users in.
Oh my God, it was so creepy.
It was. It gave me Hannibal Lecter vibes.
Yeah, and when you're like in there with them from behind and you hear the breathing, it's just like, and the music during that sequence where it was very reminiscent of John Williams' music when Anakin is deciding whether he's going to go over to, you know, the Senate and follow the Jedi, where they're going to arrest Palpatine. And there's that moment where he and Padme are basically standing, at opposing ends and looking out at the skyline at the same time. And there's this very eerie music, and the music here reminded me of that. It's again like making you very uneasy, like that Order 66 is.
They don't want you to be comfortable, though. That's a deliberate choice. Yeah. This entire last arc is meant to be uncomfortable the whole time. I mean, okay, there's the really heartwarming moments where Ahsoka is being honored by the clone troopers. There's also really that's kind of heartbreaking the way she doesn't want to reconnect with Anakin in that moment when she first sees him and he wants to talk to her and she's like, ain't nobody got time for that right now. It was kind of heartbreaking to see that.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder what if. But,
Yeah, I mean, and this whole, and you spend this whole time, and there's the moment where, Obi-Wan is like, you should talk to him, Ahsoka, and that conversation never happened.
Never happened.
And it's just like, you can't help but wonder, what if it did? Would that have made some difference?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that got to make sure we talk about, and we're getting close to the end. So one thing, Star Wars has figured out, if you want to have a really pulse pounding action sequence, take a powerful Force user, put them in a hallway, and walk towards their opponents who outnumber them 15-1. And my God, watching Darth Maul just walk down the hallway, ripping doors off and decapitating clones with doors, and he even does the thing that Darth Vader does where he slams the guy into the ceiling. Oh, my God, so good.
I think we, as fans, we really can be sadistic because, man, we love seeing our Sith Lords kill people.
Wreck stuff. Yeah.
I mean, it's great. All that stuff. Yeah. Going down the hallway when he, closes the thing shut on the guy's arm. And then, he uses that to track everybody's movements. And then he takes out the whole freaking hyperdrive.
Mm-hmm.
And
I do believe Maul did say that he and Ahsoka could take down Sidious. But yeah. I also don't think so. Teleport gaming, I think you are correct.
I think that's his arrogance talking. I don't believe that would have actually worked. But Maul, I
also love that we get to see Ahsoka's she's not evil by any means, but she's like, I'm going to release Darth Maul to create a diversion. And she's like, I'm not rooting for you to him as well. So she sends him off to fight, and she's probably hoping to die, but also he's going to take a lot of clones with him, and she knows this, but it's what must be done in the moment because she has no other option.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really interesting that, she's resolved not to actually hurt any of the clones, and though as much as what's within her power, which I really want to jump to that moment between her and Rex towards the end, but I also want to talk about like all their scenes together in those last couple episodes, like starting with like when they're on the bridge together and just talking about, you know, how all she's ever been, you know, is a soldier. And you know, and Rex talks about how the clones have mixed feelings about the war because that's what they were bred for.
They were literally made for.
Yeah, and when the war's over, what happens? Sadly, we we you know, we know the answer to that. But yeah, and then the fact that when the other clone comes in and says, you know, we have a report, and you know, and he's like, I'm ready to go check this out. You want to listen? Like, I mean, I knew at that point, you know, what
yeah, I knew too.
And yeah, and it's just like, no.
But then I really appreciate that they pulled audio straight from the film, with the exception of Hayden. There was one line that was delivered by the voice actor, not Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, what have I done? Which
what have I done? Yeah. And they also, I don't think they pulled the original audio, but there is a scene where the Jedi Council is talking to Anakin and they send him off to go spy on the Chancellor. Then they have a brief conversation amongst themselves, and that's where the scene ends in the film. But they sort of replay the scene all in holograph, and Ahsoka walks in.
Yeah, it's
and gets to see like what happens. It's part of that same conversation. It's just not in the film version.
Yeah, it's so great. There's so many things that seamlessly blend these two stories together, which was why when we did the watch party of Revenge of the Sith, like I think it was the same week that this originally aired, and both Mary and I were both like, oh my god, you know, it's like it's a whole nother viewing, you know, because that whole time you watch Revenge of the Sith now, you're thinking of like everything that's going on the other side of the story, and it just adds so much, you know, to the experience. But yeah, it's brilliant the way they did it, and they really, I remember wondering like how that would play, how, you know, would they really figure out a way to, you know, years back when it was, you know, when the show was on, you know, like thinking about, will this all feel of a, you know, cohesive piece, because they sort of, you know, the entire concept of like Anakin having an apprentice, like at first glance doesn't fit in with the film, but the way they constructed the show, and especially this finale, to link in with Revenge of the Sith, it just makes that film feel, you know, very different than it did before, and it has so much more emotion and context. It's just beautiful. But
again, like back to my early thoughts, all of this show up to now, it's had its ups and downs, and I've been very vocal about my feelings on all of it. You know, if I didn't like it, I'll tell you I didn't like it. If I loved it, I'll tell you I loved it. These last 4 episodes made if nothing else was great, would have been worth it to have the context for the characters in these last 4 episodes. Like, easily my favorite arc of the whole series.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm a guy who likes payoff in my storytelling. I like for you to take your time to get there, to really build up to it, but I love the payoff. I just do. And granted, it's not happy fun times in this. This is Order 66, y'all. So like, it's ugly and it's painful because I care about the clones. It's great to see Ahsoka save at least Rex. At least he gets through it. And, you know, he's having to fight against his brothers, so some of whom are dying. Now, they're doing everything they can to be non-lethal, but some of them died. Let's be honest. It's also like they put droids in this arc. And I'm kind of famously not much of a fan of the droid episodes, but like they weren't droid centric, but they were still a key part of the story. And I loved it. And it made sense why she had to turn to droids in this case.
And just heartbreaking when then the clones just, are like, waste these droids and they just fire on them. And, it's so cold hearted, because as, and you see more of this, later on in certain other things, but like, it's not like these, Order 66 isn't just like follow this order. It's basically,
it's a brainwashing trigger word.
Yeah. And so that these clones, all this wonderful individuality that they've had is kind of wiped away. Yeah. And God, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And yeah, some other like moments that I want to make sure we touch on, just like obviously the moment where, Ahsoka, gets the chip out of Rex's head. And I loved the callback to Rogue One with that I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me.
Mm-hmm.
That was really nice. And the fact that, even before that, she goes and she, listens to the report about Fives, like that was just so emotionally gratifying for me that, that everything that Fives went through last season
and it saved
wasn't,
Rex in the end.
Yeah, it wasn't in vain. Yeah. And there's that moment at the end of the third episode of the arc, the way the episode ends, where, Rex says, it's everybody, Ahsoka. It's the whole Grand Army of the Republic. And then the clones are coming through the door, and the way the music builds up and like the close-ups, and it just, and the way like all these episodes cut to their credits with just like dark, foreboding music. And it wasn't like, they weren't ending like traditional episodes. It was just like time for the credits, but only because,
only because they're 22-minute episodes or whatever. Yeah. But the next one's going to start right where it left off.
Yeah.
It was a masterpiece. These last 4 episodes were, they're not flawless. I always leave room to be critical, but they were the best of this that this series had to offer, with the 2 best characters from the series.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan and Anakin are in the series, but they're not from the Clone Wars. But Rex and Ahsoka are from the Clone Wars, and it gave them it wasn't fun, but it gave a satisfying conclusion to this part of the story. It let us see what they went through during the darkest day, the final day, if you will, of the Republic. And it set them up for whatever they have going forward. And like the last, 6 minutes, there's no dialogue. It's just these really calm, morose feeling long shots of Rex, of Ahsoka standing there in her hood with all the helmets of the soldiers that they buried themselves, and the helmets on the stakes, and closes on Jesse's helmet, which I'm giving myself goosebumps just sort of picturing it in my mind. And they were 501st, and they were non-501st, and they were clones we didn't know, and at least one clone we did know. It's just, and then I had thought that's where it would end, but it's not, because Darth freaking Vader rolls up at the end of this, and clearly some time has passed.
Yeah.
Everything is snowed over. A lot of the helmets are fallen over, like the stakes have fallen over.
I have some theories about when that is, but we're going to save that conversation.
Now, is it meant to be Hoth? Surely not.
No.
but I got Hoth vibes. Obviously, snow troopers, the Imperial probe droid, but him finding the lightsaber, igniting the lightsaber, the red lens on the visor. I'm just like, oh, you did everything so right. And that there's no dialogue. It's just him holding it, and you know that the memories are flooding back to him, and that it's Ahsoka's lightsaber. And oh, God, this it really did just kind of give me an emotional gut punch right there at the end.
Yeah, it's so haunting. And
exactly, Jess. He probably thought she was dead.
Yeah, I can't say any more because even speculation on that point goes into other territory. We'll definitely get to that. But yeah, and then there's,
if you're going to get to it, you need to get to it.
I will say I will say something to look out for. There's a moment when Vader's standing there, and there's a bird-like creature that's called I think Maura, or I don't know how it's pronounced, or that's the name of it. Maybe the species it says is a convor. That's, take note of that.
Yeah, I know it's got. I again, like I said before, I watched other people talking about this because I wanted to, have greater context. I know that's got something to do with Ahsoka and the sort of the sister of the light side, the Martez Arc. It's a branch from the Martez Arc. Anyway, really looking forward to seeing more about that.
Something that's like I want to step back, make sure we don't skip over that final moment, not the final moment, but one of the final moments between Ahsoka and Rex when they're standing up there and they're looking at all the soldiers coming that are waiting for them. And
I'd be proud if they weren't trying to kill us.
Yeah, and they're sort of just like, I don't want to hurt any of them. And he's like, I've got news for you. They don't care. They are going to kill us. They don't care if they die doing it. And then when she takes off his helmet and there's tears streaming down his face.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you. Like when the guy you admire so much and he's hard and he gets the single tear. Yeah, I'm done.
It's just, yeah.
It was all around this show. It stuck the landing, which I'm really happy about. And not only did it stick the landing for its own sake, but this final season gives me setup for what's to come in Rebels. Gives me setup for what's to come in the Bad Batch. And I couldn't be happier about that either.
It's funny because I will say that there's definitely, like, based off of some of the stuff that we've been talking about with, and in with Ahsoka and, and Rex and burying the clones and with, the convoy, flying up above. There's stuff that feels like it's very much setting up Rebels. And yet you've also got other elements like with the Bad Batch that sets up that show. So it's very interesting in that this show kind of, like, there's multiple doors that it opens to these other shows. And so, but I think we definitely have to tackle Rebels first.
Yeah, that's what's next. And that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
We're going to aim for like a month from now to start Rebels content. And
there's only 4 seasons of that, so it won't even take as long as this.
Yeah, and so we'll watch an episode a month, basically, or a season a month, basically.
Okay.
Not an episode, a season a month. So September, October, November, December. We ought to have it wrapped up by the end of the year, and hopefully in January, we can move on to Bad Batch.
Which, by the way, and Bad Batch just got renewed for a second season.
I saw that it was renewed for second season. And then we'll be fully caught up for when the next season of Bad Batch comes out.
Now, I will say, and I've kind of alluded to this before, that season 1 of Rebels, I will say it probably is the weakest this season.
Most first seasons are.
But it's also the most sort of self-contained. Like, the first season very much is the story of these new characters.
Right. That's fine.
And it doesn't tie into like larger
Star
Wars story elements until the subsequent seasons.
We'll get there.
But
I'm fully fine with devoting the time to get to know the new characters.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just we're gonna have that.
That will be sprinkled in wherever it pops up.
The
Mandalorian and whatnot.
I'm so very happy to have gotten to go on this journey with you, Stephen, because I know that you were, what's the word I'm looking for?
Trepidatious?
Yeah, something like that.
I was not sold on it.
Yeah. But now I'm glad, having gone through the journey, you feel it's been worth it. But yeah, I especially this final arc, I could watch over and over because it's like one of my favorite, pieces of Star Wars ever. So
yeah, me too. I can't wait to go back and do like the targeted rewatch where I watch just the Ahsoka episodes in chronological order, or maybe just the Rex episodes in chronological order. Because that's probably what I'll do going forward. I'll just pick a character and give them chronologically so I can see the development stages of development. Okay, so yeah, I'm done, John, and I have got to pee so bad. So I'm going to move to the end, okay? I finished my coffee quite some time ago, and my bladder is knocking. So we'll just say, everybody, thanks for coming. I love you all very much. Come back next week. We'll be talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That is Sunday. Next Sunday, same bad time, same bad channel. But before that happens, the day before, John, over on John Webster Film, will be doing a discussion about La La Land, a film I have not yet seen, but will watch this week because I've been intending to watch it. I generally like musicals. I love Emma Stone. So yeah, it's been on my list to watch for a while. Anything that's not super nerdy falls down the list, but John, you figured out a way to move it to the top. I'm going to watch it this week, and I'll be there in the chat, chatting away next week.
Yep, and I'll be doing that with Hannah from Game of Owns, who is an absolutely lovely person, so make sure you guys tune in for that.
John, how would you feel about doing season 2 of Avatar: The Last Airbender the week after that?
Yep, that's fine. I actually I haven't gotten to my I'm of two minds about it. I haven't gone into season 2 yet, and part of me is like, that's good because I want to kind of wait until we get closer, but also I really want to watch it. so but it's just, I've had a bunch of different things on my plate, so it's just kind of unfolded that way, but I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah.
Right on. I'm enjoying that you're enjoying that as well. So it's animation month here on Here Be Dragons, apparently. We got some Clone Wars. We're going to have some Avatar: Last Airbender. Going to do some Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse next week. And looking forward to all of that. So, yeah. And then La La Land on John's channel on Saturday. Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern? No, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. All right, cool. Right. Well, this is the month for you then, Cassie. I don't remember we didn't do animation. Oh, yeah, we did animation last week. We did Avatar: The Last Airbender, the first season last week. So it might be an all animation August. Maybe that'll be a thing next year too. Anyway, love you guys. Come back next week. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. I'll see you guys over in the Slack. I might jump on Zoom for a little bit. I've still got a couple things I got to do before bed to go to work tomorrow. But yeah, maybe I'll jump on the Zoom call. And if you want to join that, remember, send me an email to we3dragons@gmail.com. I will get you into our Slack group. We have ongoing Zoom calls where we just, we're all friends and we hang out. All right, that's really the end. Love you guys. We'll see y'all next week. Peace and be excellent.